So officially starting the Albion Cultural Exchange meeting for today, which is Wednesday. And what is today's date? Wednesday, January
7/5.
January 5th at 7 p.m. So lots of stuff going on. Some emails out to people, some cool stuff. Getting it all back together so we can review it. We'll start off with item number 1, which is the typical review and approval of the previous meeting minutes. Kathy's been doing a great job in getting the meeting minutes done in real time, and which I think is easier for you as well, right? So I'm getting them right after the meeting pretty much, and everyone's getting them within a day or two. So the meetings minutes have been distributed, and so for the last meeting, everyone should have had the opportunity to look at them. I looked at them. I didn't see anything, any glaring errors or anything like that. It seemed to be a fairly accurate representation of what was going on. Does anybody have any comments on the meeting minutes, or did everyone have an opportunity to review it if they needed to? Okay. So hearing no inquiries for discussion or comment on that, I'm going to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes. All in favor, just kind of raise your hand and say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have just reviewed and approved the previous meeting minutes for our meeting that was last month. First item up that we have on here is building maintenance, and a lot of our items tonight are about building maintenance, and I've got sort of our notes here because there's lots of stuff going on, and the meeting, I have to get the meeting agenda in at least a week ahead of time, and usually more, so then things change in between, and so some things have changed in between, but all for the good, all for the advancement of what we're doing. So number 2 is the building maintenance, general construction, just talking about the fact that we're almost complete at this point. And so I'm going to review something that we reviewed last month, but just sort of the latest update to make sure we cover it. And I also, there might have been, I don't know if Doug was here last month and whatnot, so it's worthy of review. November 6th, we had Busy Dog in to evaluate the basement, and been working and lots of phone calls with them ever since. Still really trying to get the follow-up and get the analysis. A lot of phone calls. They came through and evaluated our basement and noticed our water issues. Conversations went around ways to waterproof the basement. We looked at the crumbling part in the front and why that exists, and that exists due to an error in the sidewalk installation in probably the 30s and the 40s, which allows water to go back behind the foundation and creates a false cavity. That's what's causing the crumbling that we have at the front, and it needs to be addressed. Additionally, there's all kinds of other hydrostatic stuff that's going on down there. And it's not really anything that's alarming, other than you have to do general building maintenance. And not a lot has been done. Some has been done, and the engineer that evaluated it when we were there, he pointed out, certain areas where things have been done over the years. There's just more maintenance that needs to be done. And so looking at some of the crumbling sections, and we also looked at some of the colorations of the concrete, that was really good. There's some hydrostatic stuff that needs to go on. And basically the idea that we think is going to come out, and we need more engineers in here and we need more minds on this, but we think that the probable thing that's going to come out is they'll put together a program where we essentially kind of cut out the bottom of pieces of the wall and then dig down and put in some rocks in like a French drain kind of situation, and then refill in the walls with the concrete and go all around. So we end up with a drain around the entire bottom of the basement. That with some finishing materials and some other stuff. That's a super simplified version of the fact that we basically need a drain around the bottom of the building, and the water that we're getting and that we've seen is natural, and it has to do with the hydrostatic fluctuations of the soil. And there's remedies which include this draining system or a draining system, and some other treatments to the concrete. I've been following up with them continuously, and we're trying to get this guy, I think his name's Hector Garcia. He's the town engineer for the city of Methuen or Lawrence or something like that. He tends to be an expert in these kinds of buildings, and so I've been trying to get him on site and get him on the phone, and I've been talking to Busy Dog a lot. I've been basically trying to get a price. I'm like, okay, so we have a situation, what is our situation? And they're sort of tight-lipped because they don't want to say anything, but we've all come to the common agreement that it's probably at least $50,000. And it could go up to, who knows, 100, 200,000. We just don't really know, but we can all comfortably say that there's at least $50,000 worth of work that has to be done. This is stuff that has to be put onto a long-term plan, and done no matter what the use of the building is, whether it was us or whether it was somebody else. So I'm trying to get more engineers in and more thinking power on this. We've had our initial evaluation. I've called them a bunch of times. I've spoken to the town administrator about this. I've spoken to Donald Wong about this and pointed out some things to people and just kind of let them know, and I'll repeat that stuff in another section of the meeting, just let them know that there's going to be a financial need for that sort of stuff, coming in. So that's where that stuff sort of, for at least for this minute, we'll end the conversation on that. We've had an evaluation. We know there's stuff coming up. There's the idea of some amounts of money. I'm just continually calling them to try to get more engineers in so that we can get an actual full report. We have a preliminary evaluation. I need something in writing so that we can take that, bring it to DPW, bring it to our funding folks, bring it to the town engineer, and have other heads on it. So as we get the plan together, there'll probably be 2 or 3 engineers. We've had the first one, we've got reference to another one, there'll be another one, and then we'll take that, of course, to the town engineering department. So there's lots of engineering going on. So we've had the basement evaluated, and to be determined, and I'll update you again, next month, if that makes sense, or the month after. Does anybody have any basement specific questions? Okay.
No.
The bank building next door, the ownership change has happened, and I've talked to the town administrator a couple times, and we're talking about how to get communications with them going. We've also gone in the back and taken a lot of pictures and just the concept, working on the concept of a Chestnut Street entrance, which may or may not be the thing that we do for accessibility, but assuming that we were going in that direction, I've sort of done some visualization conversations with some people about, maybe like a portico kind of entryway that would come off Chestnut Street and then lead into our other building. All of that is just, gum flapping and people with ideas. We need to get a meeting at some point with the new owners of the building. That hasn't been scheduled. It's not necessarily on our critical path. And that's because we have some other evaluations, which I'm going to speak about in a minute. But the bank building, still an option that's out there. And no meetings have happened, although we know that the bank folks will be coming to the town administration, and they are aware that we're interested in collaborating in some sort of way. We just haven't determined how major. So that's ongoing, and I'll continue to update you as I have new info on that. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, so switching from sort of those 2 topics to, I had sent everybody an email, and it was a New Year email. And what had happened also during sort of in between when the meeting minutes or meeting agenda was created, and then when we're here today, I had an architect and illustrator down. It's a local guy, Jeff Steichman. He was referred to me for some art show stuff. He's a really talented illustrator. He does visualizations of things. And we were talking about the entrance and just what he does, and would he be in a show, and how might he fit in, because I got so many references to him. And turns out he's an architect as well as an illustrator, and his job is dealing with people like us and making pictures so that they can take them to funding and engineering to see if they're possible. So I originally, when I was speaking with him, I was thinking, geez, maybe he'll sketch up some stuff about the back entrance, the Chestnut Street and the portico idea. And he looked at it and he said that we're crazy not to re-examine the front. We talked about architects and people we've worked with, and I told him that we do need a fresh audit coming up. And he recommended a company called KM Access. I sent the link, and I've done some research and reached out to them, and through further discussion with him and further discussion I have scheduled up there, I did find out that a lot of these folks are people that were involved with the library when the library did their entrance on the side. And that's the brick thing that came in the side, and they've got some elevator stuff going on there. So a lot of the folks are familiar with Wakefield and familiar with just really creative, accessible designing. And, we've put some think power to this with some other architects and stuff over time. And at this point, with just time evaluating last time that we did it, the budget going over 100,000 and really not being the best solution. And with the renovations that we just did, it makes sense to sort of go back and start with some fresh architecture views and look at these things. So spoke with Jeff, he gave me a reference. We talked about some things. We talked about what he might do. And then he followed up with me with some specific names of these folks, and he did those visualizations that I sent to everybody. And the visualizations, I think they really make sense. And really where we're at with this whole thing is we had the idea that we could do it for under $100,000 about a year or two ago. That idea proved to be completely false. The price is going to be over 100, and it also exposed the basement stuff that we need to do. So we've sort of broken this into a couple projects, and one of them is like the basement thing needs to be handled before the rear stuff probably could happen. And I don't even want to say rear stuff, Chestnut Street stuff. But the front options aren't nearly as terrifying as we've been led to believe in the past. And that's still subject to interpretation from engineering folks. But when you look at the visualizations, it's not, a lot of people were screaming that it was, very visually offensive. And I think those visualizations are fairly pleasant and seem to make it through. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going anywhere. What that was just sort of food for thought. And I have reached out to the company I referenced to you all, which is a KM Access, the company that had the engineers and stuff that worked on the library. And I had a conversation with them on email, and I actually have a meeting with them on Friday to talk about taking a look. To that note, this is sort of like we do things before. We have the architect draw these things. All our plans that we currently have are outdated, and just times and money and things have changed. So getting someone in to do a fresh eval as to front, back, elevator, not elevator, and people that are, skilled and trained in this area seems to make, the next sense, the best next sense to move a project of this capital intensity forward, whether that project's under $100,000 or over $100,000. Either way, it's going to need a professional plan from somebody that's an expert in the business. So I have some conversations going based on our previous experience, our previous construction. We've worked with several architects over the years now at this point. I would estimate that a plan would be $10,000 or $15,000. Now we've spent we spent our first allocation, the $200,000 allocations we've had, but we have money. We've gotten a couple grants. We have money specifically geared towards accessibility, which would be money that is available, or haven't been told that it's not available. It's logically available for this. Because they're all accessibility grants. We've got something for like 20, another one for like 70. We've got somewhere under $100,000. I'm sorting through it with Jason Lewis's office, the town administrator, Donald Wong, and these folks, but there's a couple little pieces. But the bottom line is we're not broke. Money as far as engineering goes and architects and stuff like that is available. It's just a sort of a structured thing where, I need to talk to these folks. They put together a proposal. We look at the proposal. And then we bring it over, and we should have money for that. If we can get a report from these folks or somebody else, depending on how that works out, that'll give us a new direction as far as, are we doing something off the back? Are we doing something off the front? What's the latest thoughts on elevators? These folks have specific expertise in lifts and elevators. And so we've had some conversations, Jeff, who referred us over, and just about how elevators, are super expensive. And that if you know people that know what's going on, you can save significant amounts of money. Our last swing at an estimate on this was around $500,000-$600,000. That's a crazy amount that really is accurate probably for the plans that we had, but is not actionable in that we should reevaluate it under today's environment, because that was evaluated under 2019, 2020 standards, and the construction environment, the supply chain environment, that's all changed. As well as bringing some new minds to, we never really seriously looked at a front option because it seemed out of budget. We were dancing around this $100,000 line. So it's time for new energy there. And I'm going to hopefully be able to bring somebody on board who can give us energy as far as engineering and accuracy. That's a whole lot of words. Does anybody have any questions on any of that stuff? Or okay. So that's something that's out there. And I have sent a note to the town administrator saying, hey, we need to do an updated accessibility audit. And I'm expecting the number to come in, like I said, 10 or 15,000. Maybe I'm totally off. Maybe they'll give us something for 7. What do you call it? I'll find out in the conversations. Typically it's like, anywhere from 5 to 20% of your project cost can be your architecture fees. So when we say 10 to 15,000, that's pegging it right, plus or minus 20, 30,000 off of 100, which I know sounds like a big swing, but it's not. It depends on what we include. So the fee, the concept of the fee seems to be in line, and that'll of course come back before anything happens. Oh my God, there's a big fire engine in front of my house. Hold on. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but half the Wakefield Fire Departments, 2 of their trucks are in front of my house for my neighbor. Okay, so we have that. We had the initial visit with the basement folks. That's another infrastructure thing. And then one other item on infrastructure stuff, as we look at the basement, as we talk about these engineers and people looking at plans and designing stuff, with the street still open, we need to increase our water capacity at the building. And that's something else that could come into these plans. All that really means is we need a big pipe of water from the street that we didn't have before. And that would support sprinklers, which will be in our future at some point. With the street open and the Albion Street stuff going on, that now's the time to get the pipe. So I'm putting that in with the engineering folks to just talk about, to make sure it's considered, because once the street's, closed over, it's a lot more difficult to then cut it open and put a pipe in. So while the street's in a state of flux, it's going to be paved either this year, or our section's probably not going to be paved till next year. We're looking at getting more water capacity to the building. So that stuff went out. You saw the visualizations. We talked about waterproofing and all the things that I sort of tagged on there. Just lots of engineering work has gone. There's various funding. There's a thing called ARPA that's associated with pandemic funding that has money available. The town's been doing sessions on that, but I've been on the phone and on emails and all that stuff with Donald Wong, Steve Mayo, Jason Lewis, all these folks basically saying we've got various needs, and if there's money out there, we want it. And I've specifically sent these 3 requests to the town administrator and what do you call it? By that also to the town council, because it's budget season. So the town will be putting together their budget. So we may get some money either in the DPW budget or something to cover these infrastructure things that are coming out there. But they're aware, like, hey, we need some basement money. Hey, we need some money for our audit. We need some money, and we've got some funds. So there's money out there. We're just trying to figure out how to pay it out of which pots. But most of the town administration folks and the state administration folks who help us with money are aware of these things. So it's important that the folks that help us with money are aware of our issues where we need that money. And in the last month and a half, lots of communication has happened regarding that. So that's it for that. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Next item, we can skip gel blurs to the back windows. We've talked about that. That's not anything actionable for tonight. When we get to a point where we have a plan where we're going to do something there, I'll go back to that one. We have the final painting being done right now. And by, well, not final, but, additional painting being done because we were able to save some money on some other things. So our back room is currently being painted. The wall has been textured. That wall is in tough shape, and it was a lot more money to sand it all down to look like the rest of the gallery, and completely unnecessary. So we went with a skim coat. It's kind of like a stucco-y kind of stuff. I forget the actual name, but they've done that and painted it. The back stairwell is being painted. I'm not sure if they've started on the priming of that. And the front stairwell that goes to the upstairs is being painted because there was lots of window curl paint coming off. So that is in progress right now. I just actually texted Zach from Flying Colors, who's doing that work, to just get a status. I didn't check on it this afternoon.
So Chris, you said the painting the rear room and the painting of the back hallway, those are in progress, wrapping up?
They're in progress. The back room's like half done. The back hallway, I don't know if it's been primed yet, but it's in progress.
All right. If you need help to go put that stuff back in that room or whatever, please let me know. I'm happy to help.
Okay.
Yep. Should I take out the front upstairs hallway scheduled for December complete? Is front upstairs hallway still factored into any of this?
Where is it? Yeah, that's part of it.
Oh,
that's it. That's in progress too.
Oh, sorry, I missed that part. Okay, great.
Yeah, no worries. The package that Zach the painter is doing is the front hallway that goes upstairs, the back hallway, the back room, and the countertops.
Okay. Super. Okay.
Next item, So we had cut back when we were doing budgeting on our lights. We originally had like 50 lights planned, and then a decent amount of replacements. And as we were budgeting over the summer, we pulled back on that number to make sure we could make it in budget. We were able to do some really good and creative budgeting and get some help from the town on our asbestos stuff. So that money, we still had money for that. So I put it back. We had dark spots in the gallery as well as not enough.
Yeah,
well,
we
really,
did. Absolutely. So I'm glad that you guys are working on that, because that was definitely clear and the recent shows that we've had. So yeah, super. I'm glad you guys are working towards that. Thank you.
No worries. So we've got 13 new lights. They've shown up. It took like 2 months to get them, but that's just kind of the game with the electrical stuff. The 13 lights have showed up. We got 30 bulbs. So we have, a bunch of on hand if bulbs start blowing, although they shouldn't start blowing. We've blown through like 2 when we really shouldn't blow through any in the first year. But we've got plenty in case stuff blows, and we'll have more light and more lighting capacity. And we can always add more, but like Kathy said, it was apparent that we needed a little more pump. And so we've got it.
Can you guys hear my typing? I'm sorry if you can. Is it distracting?
It's all right. Counters and snack bar, we'll just table that. We've talked about that before. Exterior events board, there's nothing really actionable on that. That's a placeholder. So I went to the Commission on Disabilities Issues. I presented at their meeting on December 6th. And I updated them on, things that we had going on. And this is sort of like an ongoing thing since last year. Last year, when I updated town council, one of their concerns was that we weren't working with the Disabilities Commission enough on some of the stuff that we're doing. And so I made it a point that we will at least touch base with them once a year, if not more. And I do emails. So I had my meeting with them on December 6th, and we talked about just things that are going on. What did we do since last year? Got them caught up to date. They gave us some suggestions. They talked to me about, their expectations and that sort of stuff. And they're basically, they're just like us. They want us to get accessible as soon as possible. They're very appreciative of the stuff that we've done. They're very, interested and actually they're really happy about the fact that we had private tour experiences. And so we had a conversation about how the, disabilities are come in all types. And one of the disabilities was anxiety. People that are just afraid to go out because of all the COVID stuff. And so they were pretty happy about the fact that we had private tour experiences and that we were really making sure that we take care of the disabilities community and take care of the anxious people that are out there by, adding this service, which we didn't even talk about last year. It just kind of came up to get opening it up. And it just keeps getting more and more feedback as being a good thing. And I think it's something that we'll probably continue to offer. And we're going to continue to offer in our shows coming up. The option of a private tour experience for those that, have spatial or anxiety issues, that kind of thing. So I updated them December 6th. I'll speak to them again sometime this year, but definitely by next December or at next December. Any questions on disabilities issues and communications with the disabilities community? Okay. Past events review. We've got 2 events that happened in the last month or since the last time we spoke. And I'll defer to Kathy to talk about this, but the Arts Collaborative had an art sale December 11th and 12th. From all indications, I walked in, I did some of the promo, I took a lot of pictures, I pumped it out. We got a ton of social media action on it as far as distribution of people knowing it. I don't know how it turned out. I was there for an hour or 2, but it seemed like it did okay. Kathy?
Yeah, but both days we had about 50 people come through the building. People found out about the event through different mediums, through social media. Excuse me. The first day it was it the first, one of the days was particularly, it was cold and rainy and nasty. That was the day that the farmers market actually had to close early because of inclement weather. So yeah. it really was, it was not a pleasant day. But we still had good foot traffic both days. People are excited. People who know the building are excited that the building is starting to be used again for different kinds of venues. We kept getting that feedback regularly from folks. Some people did very well as far as sales go. Other people were just happy to be there and be part of the community and starting to get ACW and ACE back out in front of folks. So, something we'll look to do again in the future. The ACW is very interested in the calendar as far as, what opportunities will be out there for us in the coming year. There was also a quilt show before that, which was the Nimble Thimblers. So that was good to have another medium involved. I think that was November, Chris, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so again, good feedback on that one as well. So people are very excited to see the building being used. With COVID now, we'll see how that impacts things moving forward for a bit. But while the weather was good and we didn't have this second variant coming through, there was a lot of enthusiasm and excitement.
Awesome. Did anybody else go to the show? I was there. Kathy was there, obviously. I'm assuming Joy was there. I saw Andy there. Andy was on one of the photos. He did a good,
Donna came through. I'm trying to remember who else. I didn't see Anne Marie, but I think, I think she almost got blown away on the Saturday. So I didn't expect to see her that day, but good foot traffic. Could always be better. And, having some balloons out in the front of the building is a good thing. Having a A-frame sign down at the corner, got some folks in the building that way. We continue to explore what dates and timeframes really make sense as far as, should we do a Friday night and a Saturday? How people have mixed emotions about how productive a Sunday is. So, this is something that we've tackled. Doug, you'll remember this from arts collaborative days in the past, where we're always struggling to try and find what's the sweet spot for getting maximum exposure.
I agree. It's a tough one. And it varies from show to show, because sometimes you'll do really, really well with one setup and you'll think that's the sweet spot, and then you'll just totally won't happen the next time.
Yep, agreed.
And when you have when we have stuff on the walls, if we get music and bands and other layers that can do stuff that are part of the event, associated and part of the event, so that you can have people on the walls and then you can have a music event and there's an art show going on at the same time. Those are definitely, definitely cool things.
I think too is, as people see the renovated space, I think that will help a lot, and people wanting to come back and see what kinds of shows that we have. The improvements to the space are very noticeable.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I didn't include that, but we certainly got a tremendous amount of input on that one, on that as well.
And I think, people that haven't seen it, they're like, oh, I've been there. Yeah. No, you haven't. And I don't know if there's a way, we can, all of us think about this all the time, but, incentives to get people in, sort of like, try us again. We're totally different now. Come back for a second time. But people will get there. And we are getting feedback, because we're getting emails, we're getting inquiries from people. I'm going to talk about some emails and some stuff that I have that has happened because of the fact that people are hearing about this. But for past events, the one that I wanted to mention that's on the list is the Wakefield Music. Carolyn Lieber and her students had a holiday concert thing, and I was the sponsor on that one. And it was, I'm trying to think of it, was December 20th. There's the date. It was the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life, man. All these little kids playing violins and doing their thing, and she's sitting there and she's like the most patient person I've ever met in my life, and she's got it like going on. And we had people there. They were all masked up and they were standing up, and their friends and family and some other folks came in and saw it, and it was just really cool. I mean, they were doing their thing. It was holiday. It was cheery. It was almost like COVID didn't exist, except for the fact that we had all masks on. Super, super cool. Look forward to seeing those kids in there again, and all their parents are in there. And that's, those are people, as we look at economic development aspects of this, those are people that wouldn't have been in there, that aren't in there. They aren't part of the Arts Collaborative crowd. They aren't part of this show crowd or that show crowd. They're there for their kids that are in Wakefield Music. And so, we had the place filled with, 40 people or something like that. And, those are the types of people that, we want to bring into the downtown community as our overall mission of, not only doing the art and culture stuff, but the economic development. It all feeds into each other. So that was definitely good. And it was like I said, it was the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life. So that happened. Does anybody have any questions about either one of those for me or Kathy? All right, let's keep going. We've been doing good. I watched on the thing. We're at 7:34. We've been averaging an hour and 6 minutes, which I think is decent. Because now with Google and all these meetings being on Zoom, it automatically indexes them. And when you Google Albion Culture Exchange, like our last 10 meetings come right up. It is not hard to watch. I found out one of my friend's mothers watches the meetings and gave him comments on it. Said, "Oh, I see him on there." Like I didn't realize we have sort of this like. They might not be watching us live, but we have like this cult sub audience that watches our meetings. Hi, everybody, cult sub audience. Glad to see you. Thanks for watching. So no questions on past events. We'll go to the next topic, which is promotion. Number one, I met with Donald Wong at ACE, and it was just a matter of circumstance. We had the light department event, and we had a lot of people in for that event. A lot of politicians were in for that event. One of the light commissioners, as you recall, we let them do a thing since they had their offices there for 40 plus years. And so I ended up speaking with Donald Wong. Tracy was with me, right? Tracy was there, right? So me and Tracy ended up talking to Donald Wong for like 25 minutes. And we talked about money. We talked about what we're doing. He told us what was going on. He told us some stories from the State House and just, what's going on. He was very happy with what we were doing. He did a state proclamation at the thing. And we just talked about our needs, and it was a very productive conversation. And I think the first time we had Donald in there in person, I've invited him several times. So it was the first time we had him in there in person. And so, those in-person relationships, especially with COVID, are I think very valuable. And it was also good to have Tracy there because, I fought my gums about this stuff for 7 years now. It was good to have her in there talking to him, and she has other experiences with Donald. So just extending our relationships all over the place. So I think that was good. Tracy, any comments about what Donald had to say? Unmute.
No, hi, I'm unmuted. No, he definitely is very excited about the building and is very eager to help, it seems, in any way that he's able to. No, he seemed really willing to. If he's able to do it, he's going to do it. So no, I think it was very positive.
And as everyone will say, he's just a nice guy on top of it.
Totally cool guy. Totally.
He's totally real.
He is.
All right. So moving to the next item on the promotion stuff. So I have Wakefield Arts Guild reached out, and we were talking about how people want to do this, and they reached out with an inquiry about, hey, you've got this great building, how can we be involved? Can we rent it? Can we do this? Can we do that? And right now we have a fairly active sort of sideline subcommittee kind of thing going on, workshops with building usage and that sort of stuff. And that stuff doesn't just happen overnight. We did a little bit of work on it. We're gonna schedule another workshop or two to do more work on it and really just get powerful conversations that don't necessarily happen in the main meeting. In details and there's also sub conversations you need to have for these things for people that want to have events, but lots of discussion. So I didn't really have anything to tell them because we haven't really ironed out our policies and our usage stuff. It's really all in flux, and we're trying to just deal with it. And we've got stuff that we can't even move forward on certain things, and we talked about it because of accessibility, because of COVID. It really stops a lot of things from moving forward. Really at all. But I invited them down to come check out the building. And so I ended up with this woman, Beverly Cook, and this guy, Dan Abersom, who's like the president of the Linfield Artists Guild. And they've got 180 artists. They meet over in Linfield at one of the churches. They do shows.
Did I meet them?
Yeah, they got the two people that were there, the older guy and the woman with the hat.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, you talked to them for a while too. So anyways, they came over and we talked about they're basically interested in doing stuff, and I didn't have a lot to tell them because of just sort of our structure and we have things going on. But then the further we talked, that I asked them what they had and whatnot, and I ended up inviting them to participate with us in the Be the Good show, and they're actually going to be a major part of it. So I just basically said, hey, we've got some various people, we've got this Be the Good show, we've got this thing called Art and Edibles coming up. This is the rough time frame we had. I do have wall space. I've got some other people I'm talking to and this and that. And then through many conversations, I brought them on board to be a partner with the Be the Good show. And so, what do you call it? Linfield Arts Guild is going to be in it. Jamie and I and Linfield Arts Guild are going to get the walls set up. That show, as discussed the last several months and last month, is going to start on January 21st. The hours are going to be like 5:30 to 8 or 5:30 to 7:30. I'm looking at two different things. I have 5:30 to 7:30 and 5:30 to 8 written down. But we have 53 pieces of, actually 55 pieces of art that has been pre-registered for the show. Everything's all organized. It's in a spreadsheet. We've got a drop-off set up. We're doing a drop-off next week, Thursday night, the 13th. We're going to do some hanging and stuff on Friday and Saturday. So we should have that show hung up mostly and everything pretty much done next weekend. The show will start the following Friday, which is January 21st, and it'll run Friday nights through the end of February up until the Art and Edible show that we have at end of February, and then we'll take all that stuff down. I'm pretty happy with the progress. I've got these folks on. They're totally psyched. Really is just looking for a possibility to expand our reach with other people. And, at this point, with everything that we have going on, we are really becoming a regional place. And so, I spoke with Joy when we had our meeting about what was it, the usage policies and that stuff. And I told her, I said, hey, Linfield Arts Collaborative reached out to me and this and that. And I said, I think this is a good idea. She agreed it was a good idea. And then after that conversation, that's when I invited them down and said, hey, why don't you guys participate? And now they're partners with the Be the Good show. We've got 50 some odd pieces ready to go. I've been going back and forth with them. I've been working on some flyers. We're getting some stuff down. So we'll have them in, they'll have an opportunity. And I think one of the great things about this is not only are we expanding our reach, we're bringing in an entire new audience. They have 180 artists. We've got 50 some odd pieces out of that. And then a handful of other pieces that Jamie and I have gotten together. The people that will be coming to see this are a completely new audience. There's a little bit more of a regional audience, but it's going to be every Friday night in the winter, which is sort of something we've talked to the town administrator about over various times, of just being open on a more regular basis, this whole always open kind of thing. But the long and short of it is we've got the show ready to go. It's looking pretty good. We're working on the final details. We have the pieces already registered and it's going to go up and it's going to start on the 21st.
Great, Chris, that's great. So is this show also opened up to other artists, or is it just to the Linfield Arts Guild?
Well, the show was basically Jamie and I were the ones that were curating it. So we did not do a call to artists, but we did partner with that. However, once the show goes up, we've got, like I said, 54 pieces. There was no call to artists. There was a call to artists within Linfield because I decided to partner with them to give them an opportunity to get in there. And
they did do an open call to artists to, I think, beyond their walls as well. So I think the last time the Arts Collaborative met, we had a couple of inquiries wondering about how the Linfield Arts Guild was involved in the show. And so I didn't have any answers at the time on that. So this helps fill in some of those gaps. But okay, that helps me out a little bit. But I think they did do it.
If you have somebody that has some great stuff that they want to get up there, I'm sure we can figure out a way to get it up there. I'm not about restricting people, but I was really all about working with some new people that were available. So I gave them an open wind and said, all right, let's do this. Let's advertise it to your 180 people.
Oh, I think that's all great. I think it was just confusing when all of a sudden there was a call from artists from a group to people that were Arts Collaborative members, and the Arts Collaborative people meet in the building. So I think it was just a little confusing, and I didn't have any answers for them at the time. So not a criticism, just an observation that just making sure that moving forward, we're just a lot more aware, I think. And so it would have been I would now I have an explanation that the Arts Guild is a partner with the show and a primary driver on that. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And there'll always be people that don't have that information. And I don't necessarily see it as a responsibility that I have to update the Arts Collaborative as to what's going on in the show that they're not there. I'm happy to give them the information, but I didn't see it as an obligation that I needed to get it to them pronto.
Chris, I wasn't
I
asking
understand they want to know.
Chris, I was not asking for that.
Okay.
I was trying to understand the relationship.
Okay, so yeah. But again, we do have space. So once we get everything set up, like next weekend, there'll probably be some space. So if there's somebody that's interested, I had somebody contact me today that's got a big piece. One of the things that came up when we were talking about this is part of the drive behind this as we were first initially envisioning it was we really wanted big pieces to really show off the walls and what can be done with that hanging system. We did a lot of the smaller stuff recently. But then I found out that the bigger pieces are really hard to come by because a lot of shows don't allow them. Or at least that's what I've been told by people. So,
Well, there are some Arts Collaborative members that do big pieces. So if you're interested in looking for their work, if you want to send me some information, I'm happy to share it. But I'll wait to hear from you or someone from the Arts Guild on that.
okay. All right, so that's that one. Anne Marie and I met with the town administrator, and we talked about and we were supposed to meet with Erin, but she was sick that day. Everybody's sick with COVID and different things. But we met with Steve Mayo at ACE, and what do you call it? We talked about the Arts and Edibles schedule and stuff that's going on. There's a ton of stuff on there that doesn't necessarily need to make an update for this meeting, but we're working on, well, first of all, we're working on this whole new COVID thing and seeing if that's going to put a punch into us and what we have to do. And we've got contingency plans for everything that we've already thought about if we need to go back to private tour experiences. What do you call it? But the town administrator gave basically the full support. He's totally on board with the Art and Edibles thing. This is a project that goes back to when I worked with the town administrator. This was a project that was developed in lieu of Restaurant Week because we're too small of a community to really do that. And so he's totally on board. Has given us resources, Erin, Jen, and a few others that we need. We talked about relationships with what do you call it? Chamber of Commerce, Main Streets, some other folks, and how to bridge that gap. And the town's going to help us bridge that gap. We're not really asking for much from these other organizations aside from being a promotional partner. And so what do you call it? So that So that happened. That was a good meeting. We're also talking to a brewery through the town for this idea of maybe having a microbrewery set up in the middle of Albion Street and closing off the street, and maybe on a Sunday having a beer tent or something like that. And that is driven from connections through the town because they've worked with a couple microbreweries. And we talked to Steve Mayo about that because he has worked with these folks. Don't know if anything's going to come of it. Idle Hands Brewery in Malden was one of them, and there was a couple others. And what do you call it? So phone calls are out there. We're also still talking about a concept from a few years ago called the Race to Ace, which involves the Mystic Runners. And one of the things they told me about their successful races is they usually end and there's free beer or beer of some sort. So the idea would be that they, what do you call it? That we do like a road race. It ends up at the Art and Edibles event sometime between March 17th and the end of April. And then there's a beer tent. All the details are just way out there. We're working on it. We're seeing if that will work. If COVID ticks up, that idea is completely off the table. If things calm down a little bit, that idea probably has some more stuff, but lots of cool ideas. Either way, there's going to be a show. The call to artists has been put together. It hasn't been distributed. I don't believe Anne Marie has it. We've got that together. We've got some of the other graphics and stuff about ready to go. So the call to artists for Art and Edibles, I don't think she's released it, but it should be released pretty soon. To get that out, and that's going to Arts Collaborative, that's going to Linfield, that's going to anybody that wants to be a part of it and get their info in. In that case, I think early submissions. We talked about getting priority. Maybe wall space was one of the things, but it's open to everybody. So we're looking for local people. We're looking for Arts Collaborative people. We're looking for Reading people. We're looking for Linfield people. We're looking for people to participate, and we'll curate as needed, but chances are, people that get their stuff in first will definitely get the priority, and people that bring stuff that hasn't been seen before will get the priority. But we'll figure that out. All that's getting ready to go out. A lot of the legwork has been done. The big thing I think was meeting with the town administrator, as well as him, offering his staff for support for bringing in other entities, like making sure the Chamber of Commerce advertises our thing and will advertise their restaurants, making sure Main Streets has the same message of promotion, making sure that other groups are included. And a lot of the liaison-y type stuff will be done by the town. So we're not expecting anything from them. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for displays. We're not asking for food. We're just saying, hey, promote the fact that this art and edibles thing's going on. And we're promoting food, art, and the whole thing in Wakefield. So that's sort of where that's at. Does anybody have any questions on that stuff? There's a lot of details in there and they're not worked out. So I just sort of threw a lot of stuff there. If you have questions about anything specific that you don't really want to ask now, because it's not necessarily something that is pertinent to the meeting, email me, call me. There's all kinds of stuff. Call Anne-Marie. We're working on it. Any comments? Again, yeah, we've got, it's going to go up. We're doing setup. We're doing drop off on the 13th, set up on the 14th and 15th, and the show starts on the 21st, 5:30 to either 7:30 or 8 p.m. Followed by what do you call it? Bring the Good, and then followed by Art and Edibles, which will start on March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day and a Thursday night, and go to the end of April. And then last on this promotion list, and because I just didn't see I had it on here anywhere else, I am, I believe, presenting to the town council in like 2 weeks, and I have a slide deck for that. It's a slide deck that's similar to one I presented to them about a year ago. It basically talks about everything that's happened since last January to now. It has 2 slides in it that are timeline slides that talk about like, hey, we found asbestos. Hey, we remediated asbestos. Hey, then the lights were installed. Hey, then the paint was installed. And it does a little month-by-month breakdown in a visual way, which I think will be pleasing to them. So I'm meeting with them, and meeting with the Disabilities Commission was also in prep for meeting with town council and giving them a slide deck update, which I'll make that slide deck available to people as well. And that's going to happen at the end of this month or maybe the beginning of next month, depending on what's going on in general. Any questions? All right, we're doing good. 7:51. Okay, gifts and donations. The Steinway piano gift is out there. There's no new conversation that I have for that. Future sound system. We talked about this last month. I had the BJ Wass from Onset Music in and talk about sound system. We had some follow-up emails and he gave me a list of things that would make the sound in there marketably better, including a PA, some curtains, and some sound dampening material. I've also met with the Savings Bank, Bob DeBella, and spoken to a few other people about funding, because for this type of stuff, we're hoping to get private funding for it. So maybe we've talked about the idea that it could become the Savings Bank sound system or something like that for a couple of years. And the idea is that, you know, we're trying to go the private route on this stuff because it doesn't fit nicely into the current money that we have. The money that we have is really geared towards accessibility, and justification for a sound system over accessibility is just something that's not going to happen with the people that control money. So if we get it funded privately, then it becomes a non-issue. So so that's something that's out there. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right. Operations guideline, we had a draft of that. We need to schedule another workshop. I'll do that in the next month or so. And we can sit down. We'll probably do like another Sunday or something where there's an hour or two where people can come in and just bang on it. We've got a document. We had a document draft. Everybody should have the updated document, and then we'll figure out where we need to take it from there. Joy had asked for like a common Google Doc. We may do that. We might not. I don't think it's that complicated, but we need to have another meeting or so. And if at that next meeting, we decide that we need a common Google Doc to track changes, we will. I don't think we do, but the suggestion was put out there, so we will evaluate it at our next discussion. Anybody have any questions on that? All right. Future events, we talked about Bring the Good. We already talked about that. Art and Edibles, we talked about the review with the town partners. Art Blooms, that's something we talked about, but we don't have a lot of structure around it. That would happen after Art Edibles. That typically a Blooms event happens in April. I got like a 50-50 feeling on this one. And the reason I do is because of COVID and whatever's going on right now. We don't know. Let's see how these other shows go. And, you know, Anne Marie is a big part of the Art Blooms thing, but, you know, we'll have done so much work at that point that might not be interested in doing it. It might be just too much at that point. But in another month or so, we'll have a better idea as to what might go on with that. So Art Blooms, pending, you know, April and May, it has been, you know, sketched out there. So I would say that, you know, if something else were to come up that on contingencies, we definitely want to talk about Art Bloom, since we did sort of pencil it in before, you know, scheduling over it in any way. But, you know, we'll see where we're at that point. Again, we'll see where we're at with acapella. Spring acapella was looking like something that was like a slam dunk. But then in the last 2 weeks with this increase in COVID stuff, maybe not. If things go away and things calm down and get back to where we were 3 weeks ago, there'll be an acapella show in the spring. If they don't, we won't. High school shows, that's another one that needs to be explored. We'll have to talk to Joy if she's transitioning to anybody, if they want to do something, if they don't want to do something. Since she's not running the whole show, we'd have to work with them and put some structure to it. Before, since it was, you know, Joy was in charge of it, she's a committee member. That gave her the ability to just, you know, do what she needed to do to make it happen. But if, you know, if she's still running it as a committee member, that's great, but there's going to be new high school people, so we need to figure that out. Linfield, when we were having conversations with them, talked about the Linfield high school stuff. And it's been floated out there that potentially maybe we'll have a bunch of high school events. We'll have a Wakefield one, and maybe Linfield will have a show too with some of their high school people. That's all very speculative, but the conversations, you know, it has been said out loud a couple times. And honestly, I personally don't have any objection to it as long as it works. As long as there's people to handle the details, and those people preferably aren't me. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why it couldn't work. But we need to figure out the Wakefield thing before we figure out other people's things. I think a big part of bringing everything back, and when we propose new stuff, is, at least in my head, I look at legacy reactivation. We had a lot of legacy programs. We had acapella. We had the Wakefield High School. We have Arts Collaborative, certain shows that we're doing consistency. So anybody that's really been legacy, I think, you know, should be given the opportunity to reactivate now that we have the place, you know, have the place updated. So if high school shows, Wakefield would get priority because they've been doing it. If we can work with Linfield, great. If we can't, or they don't have enough staff, or we just don't have enough relationship, that might not happen. And a lot of it has to do with relationships and people that are willing to volunteer their time. So beyond that, there's really not, these are just placeholders of ideas that we've had. Yeah, summer show, maybe we'll come up with something for that. We'll see where we're at. Comedy night, great idea, especially if you have a sound system. And then Go Live music series is something we've sort of had for a long time. Nothing worth talking about tonight. Next item, artist challenge. If people want to talk about this, they can. But the idea was that if we put out an artist challenge with potentially prize money and sponsors, maybe for the summer, where we would have people create stuff that could then be in a future show, that might be attractive. Does anybody have any comments on that idea for now? All right, we'll skip going over that. Spring summer exhibit, we'll figure something out. Art on the highway, leave that as a placeholder. There's no new info on there. Oh, there was on here. Presentation to town council. And these are the notes I went over earlier. I didn't see it at the end here. I met with the Disabilities Commission in prep. Review with the state delegation about our funding and our projects. Other things that we need and are working on from an infrastructure basis is increased security, increased fire protection, lifts for the basement and or upstairs, and streetscape repairs. So that's a lot of stuff that's there. And so when I look at this, and I was talking to Donald and the I think her name's Emily over at Jason Lewis's office, we're just looking to match up the various funding mechanisms that we had with the projects that we have. So for instance, when we add people coming in and out of the building for any reason beyond what we've been doing, we need to upgrade our key card system coming in and out. If we have multiple people doing multiple things and we start to add to that and we get our accessibility together, we're going to need to know in a much more finite way who's coming and going and when. We have one camera now, and we've had situations through construction where, you know, there's something happens, and of course nobody knows anything. Oh, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. And I pulled pictures from the camera and said, "Is this you?" And yeah, and so we've gone back to the cameras, and it's been very useful. But we don't have enough of them. We probably need 2 or 3 more cameras, and we need security key card stuff. And there's a lot of proper ways to do that it can't just kind of be chucked over. We need to really think that through. So as we expand into other uses, say in a year, once we get accessibility taken care of, we need to work on our security, because if we have people coming and going from the building, we have liability issues, big liability issues, which get cured by controlled access and cameras. So that's stuff that's out there. Fire protection, we need sprinklers at some point. And so we need to get the water in off the street while the street's open. So security, fire protection, we need the basement proofed, we need lifts, and we need the streetscape adjusted. So that's a lot of stuff. And that will come in with the town council and with the various funding people to get to it. And we talked about it in various other stuff. Does anybody have any questions about the town council, what I'm going to tell them, or interest in that meeting? You guys don't want to present to the town council? It's boatloads of fun.
You're so good at it, Chris. We'll let you go ahead.
It's great. I just sit there and like 7 people just grill me with questions. Okay. So that's it for that. Next up is Kathy and Arts Collaborative updates, ideas.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Yep. So at the last Arts Collaborative meeting we met, I presented actually what the ACE building has for upcoming activities. One of the things that we've done in the past is, you know, we had been a primary driver along with Anne Marie for the Arts and Edibles, but that's shifted. And so you and Anne Marie are moving forward. That's great. We're glad to see that. People are also interested in you know, art blooms if that comes together. And people had a lot of interest too in Bring the Good as well. So, but the first few months of the year, or the first half of the year, seem to be taken up with activities, which is wonderful. So the Arts Collaborative is actually looking to try and do something in the fall. We're talking about shows now and show themes. And so at our next meeting, we'll have more discussion about that and put together an idea for probably September, October timeframe. The other thing that we had talked about doing and had actually submitted an idea form was this concept of having a drop-in and art period of time. So what this is all about is offering personal art creation time where ACW artists can interact and support one another in a group situation for dry media. The thought was to do this for two-hour time slots per month, one during the day, one in the evening, probably initially open it up to ACW artists and see how that goes, and then expand beyond that. As time goes on. The thought is that this probably would not be intrusive with most of the events that would be happening within the building. We would only need probably a small amount of space, a couple of tables and maybe 10 chairs. We'd be responsible for taking up, you know, setting up, taking down, and making sure the space was clean. But another way, Chris, tying in with, you know, having multiple usages for the building and continuing to get folks in the building and doing different activities. So the ACW is very interested in doing this. I know with COVID right now, this is probably not a great time to be starting this up. But the group is definitely interested. We talked very heavily about, you know, how this would gel. Could this gel with most, you know, if there was an existing art show up? Yeah, it probably could, you know, we could probably find a space to leverage, use that as creative energy as well. So that's what we're looking to do. We'd like to really move forward with this in the near future, if at all possible, because we felt that that was something we could be leveraging the building on an ongoing basis in a small periodic way without too much overhead or heavy lift associated with it. So we're very interested in trying to do that. And then, as I said, we're also looking to do a show in the fall when we typically have done one. Comments or questions from folks?
Anybody? Nope. You guys did a show. I mean, fall's the time that you guys do a regular show, anyways, right? I can't think of the name of it, but like, don't you have like a regular September show?
No, we've done, music for your ears. We've done a couple of different shows in the fall. Art and Edibles was really the big one that we've done the last few years.
Okay.
And we've also done an Art Blooms as well. So we've done, I think, one, maybe two of those.
So it was all right. See, sounds good.
So as
Maybe
far
those.
as being able to move forward with this idea of a drop-in and art, Chris, how would you like to be able to move forward with this concept? Or what are some of the I don't know, roadblocks or dependencies at this point before getting that in front of the committee?
Well, I would say that, first of all, I would definitely advocate that you talk to committee members, individually before we bring it to a meeting so that people can ask their questions. When we're at a formalized meeting, it's really tough to put people on the spot and ask them questions about an idea that they just heard, even if they had some prep time. So, I'd love to see, people talk to, we had 2 shows. We got this proposal came in, and I'm pretty sure that nobody had talked to Anne Marie and nobody had really talked to me about it in a like one-on-one kind of way. So I saw stuff like, hey, we want to start next month. And that was really shocking to me. It was really much more aggressive than I was expecting. We have accessibility issues, and we need to handle those. And so
Okay.
there's
Okay.
that. There's other stuff though that comes into play of, and this will come into play when we talk about our usage stuff, and that the first floor, as far as being a maker space, we used to use it as a maker space. And, I think with opening up, say, the basement and working on foundation stuff down there, that maybe a space for this might be downstairs when we rehab that and get the basement done. When we have stuff up in the main gallery, I don't necessarily know that we'd want to layer in a creator space. We did workshops with, like, say, the garden club, and we did paint nights.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, we
that.
talked, Chris, we pretty
Hold on.
heavily talked about that because one of the things that we said, this would be dry media only. So, yeah, I hear some of your reservations. Why don't, if you could share this proposal maybe with some of the other members, or I can send it to them via email if you'd like, but I need their email addresses to at least get folks thinking about it, and then we can work our way through, COVID right now, some of the accessibility issues. But I'd like to start circulating the concept for people just so that they can have this as a back pocket idea. Because I really think that, if we do dry media only, it's not really going to be intrusive. And it would be great if we could get to the point of having a basement space where we could have, classroom space. But I think that's a long way off. So let's continue the discussions.
Okay. All the email addresses are available on the website.
Okay.
On the town website. You can get.
All right, then I'll do that.
directly.
Okay, super. Yep. I'll get
And
this out in front of folks.
figure that there. Does anybody else have any questions
Or comments.
or
Yeah.
comments?
Yeah, please.
Let's see here. Look at my agenda. Hang on, I'm just looking for that last sheet of paper that says what we're doing. Here it is.
After me, it's just unanticipated topics and then adjournment, Chris. That's
All right.
the last couple of items.
Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay, so anybody have any unanticipated topics you want to talk about?
Nothing planned.
Nothing planned? Unanticipated.
No,
Okay. Does anybody object to us adjourning and calling it a day?
No.
No objection.
Make a motion
No
that we
objection.
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Doug seconds, third and fourth. All right, we'll see everybody later.